please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm BeetleMoist. Hope you like the name. Don't bother saying it 3 times, it's certainly not going to summon me. Today I want to talk about Twitch streamers, and how some of them are becoming like Kick streamers. We could now insert Sneeko getting banned off virtually every platform. That's a separate issue. On Kick you have the IRL streamers bringing disrepute and bad reputation to that of the platform Kick. A platform that has great potential. Don't bother trying to deny it, it really does. Much like Rumble, there is great potential to become a greater platform. Many more conservative commentators are on Rumble. More left-leaning commentators are on Twitch. More IRL streaming prats that chase clout are on Kick. All of them are good platforms for gaming. We're going to focus on Twitch because after Frogan's little escapade, as Mongols from last week, we now need to talk about Hasan Piker, his back and forth, his beef with Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein is not best impressed with Hasan Piker, the head of the snake as it were, but also Mia Khalifa. If you don't know who she is, I'm very surprised. If you know who she is, you know she's a massive hypocrite, for a whole slew of reasons. We'll start though with Hasan, because this one goes back to the 21st of October and I forgot to cover it sooner, where Ethan Klein has spoken quite strongly against Hasan. Now there are many pushing to get Hasan removed from Twitch for a period of time. I don't think Dan Clancy or anyone else will actually intervene to remove Hasan for creating this poisonous community, because Hasan is the 4th most viewed streamer in Twitch history. He has the views, the followers, the subs, he has the follower base, he has the numbers. They're not going to want to punish their most cherished, or one of their most cherished, well, pinatas. Now we can sit here and go through everything Hasan has said in the past. I have covered him a couple times, but in truth that is far too voluminous now, and we are getting to a stage, certainly within election season, with the final, 12 days, right? That's not including how long it takes to count votes. Arizona, yes, I'm paying attention to you. 13 days, really? Where it's going to get more heated. We know this because they're already calling Trump Hitler, and clips of Kamala not being able to answer questions have come to the surface. Both sides are having their fun, and as an Englishman I get to sit back and enjoy this, because that's the point. We had our election and we ended up with a guy who looked like plasticine in charge. In the case of Hasan, he has had some interesting back and forths with other creators that have criticised him. Nick Diorio, Willie Mack. His debate with Willie Mack is hilarious because Hasan did not know what he was talking about. But because he worked with Ethan Klein has some words. That's where we're going to start. And then we'll get to Nick Diorio and Willie Mack soon.
No other minority group would be told to just, move on, okay? I can't tiptoe around this. I despise how Hasan, specifically Hasan, keeps telling me what I need to do is go talk to other Jewish people that are on his approved list of, Jews that can, actually talk to you about.
The issue with what Hasan has said in this context is that Hasan has sought out confirmation bias. He found it and uses it as an appeal to authority fallacy. I didn't realise we still operated with skeptic trademark talking points of old. I didn't realise that I could still use those same ones to address this kind of mentality that Hasan has. Oh look, concerning the issues surrounding Israel and Palestine, Hamas, and other countries in that area, the Middle East, allow me to present some people of a faith that happen to align with Ethan that can in turn, yes, I'm having to dance around this a little bit here, that can happen to convey and confirm what I have said to be the case, because good sycophant. Just the thing here, Hasan, not everyone of a faith is always going to agree with each other just because we agree on the same faith. No, that's not how this works. Nor should anyone think that's how it works. There are some faiths that punish quite vigorously if you aren't in alignment with that particular interpretation. And no, I am not singling out one faith at all. History has taught us many things. In this, though, Ethan Klein doesn't need to speak to people just because they agree with you when he wants to speak to you. And just the thing, if you, Hasan Piker, and Ethan Klein did a show together, split the money 50-50. You would make a lot of money debating actual issues. That's not to say I agree with Ethan or Hasan, by the way, because I fully believe in no lives matter. I tend to agree with the opportunity part, the lobes. Yes, rub them if you're a good Ferengi. Rules of acquisition apply here. Continuing though with Ethan Klein before we go to the next clip.
Like, I'm f***ing sick of this. It would never be of another race that would say that, okay? Oh, imagine a black person talking about racism, and Hasan's like, I have a black friend that is actually really good. You should talk to them. You know what I mean? You should talk to my black friend. It's bigoted, dude. Straight up.
In this, Ethan Klein is right. Hasan has this bias. He has spoken about race on his channel before, for those who pass as white, and the importance of having more hue to your epidermis. It wouldn't surprise me if Hasan actually thought Martina Big was African. If you know who she is, yeah, that train wreck. Now, Ethan Klein has cooked Hasan in other clips where they have featured together. He has responded directly to that.
While the Chinese government... Wait.
I was going to say something like Americans did Native Americans a favor, you know what I mean? Like who the f*** are you to side with the colonial power that took over a country hostilely, literally a genocide, destroyed their culture, turned it into China, and here he is like, it's good when China does it, but bad when Israel does it? Like, what the f*** are you saying, dude?
This is a fair use interruption. I've never been a fan of false equivalences. Ethan made one a moment ago before this clip, the last part in the first video I showed, when it came down to race, but it was to make the wider point of Hasan's bigoted approach of separating by race to determine severity. This hypocrisy continues on into the discussion of Israel, Hamas, Palestine. Not going to justify anyone's actions in that. Don't try me. I'm not that guy. It also goes as far as to any other country where Hasan can justify it, but not when it suits his message. I remember back in 2016, some friends of mine joked that all the gold in the world was hidden inside the moon by the Jewish folk that supported Trump. I'm starting to think Hasan might believe this is true.
Like, there's zero consistency. This is shockingly radical. And we watched this at the time, and people are like, oh, Ethan, you don't understand. You don't listen to Hasan. This is not normal. This type of discourse is not normal.
Now, because Ethan has gone to town criticizing Hasan Piker for his bad takes, I'm sure some are good, by the way, and if you believe or side with Hasan, that's totally fine. I have no issue with that in the slightest. Over on Reddit, Hasan's Reddit, just report Ethan for harassment and move on, please. We're better than this. The amount of people going on about who said what is staggering, but it's obvious that Hasan has a lot more emotional intelligence than Ethan does. Emotional intelligence is not the same as actual intelligence. That's like comparing relative and absolute. Poverty, that is. I don't want to take away anyone's enjoyment of arguing, but it never ends well. So please just go report his last Friday's pod and Monday's pod, as well as his personal channel's last 2 videos, and let him deal with whatever YouTube decides to do with him. With peace and love, just use YouTube's tools instead of just ignoring him. You can do both right after reporting him through YouTube. Peace and love. 2 words I would never associate with Hasan. He is a poison. You can agree with many of his policies, and I'm sure some things he says, certainly in the political space, can be correct. But his attitude towards it and the lack of preparation and, well, consistency can be argued to be intellectually dishonest. He's very strong-minded, bloody-minded, stubborn, prideful might be the correct word. Correct sometimes. But when it comes to his beef with Ethan Klein, I'm not as convinced he's right. Hasan's playing a very dangerous game at the moment where he's having to dance around certain subjects a little, because he knows because his moderators have been punished, he can't be as Hasan as he wants to be. I still maintain, though, that for Hasan to be relevant going for the next 4 years, he needs Trump to win so he has something to be opposition to. And I don't think Hasan has watched Ethan's criticisms of him. I think he's watched part of it and read a few tweets. Over on Twitter, a user called OniDrop tweeted, "Old Chatter asks, aren't you doing exactly what Ethan criticizes you of? Hasan reaches into the playbook. Sarcasm, belittling. I watched the clip, what? And finally, I won't watch the rest of it because I don't want to feel bad. Hasan will never engage with criticism, yet he'll happily sit there and act as if he has. Here is the clip for that."
Do you not think he's possibly correct about anything, even partly?
Aren't you literally doing exactly what he criticizes of you, though? Do you think that that may be what he wants? Actually asking so you can think of it? Aren't you doing literally exactly what he criticizes you of, though? Yes, dude, you're right. I am. I am pro-terrorism, pro-China, pro-Russia. Yes, what he criticized me of is actually correct. You're right. What the f are you talking about? Just say what you mean.
This was retweeted by Destiny, who said, people should be aware that Hasan operates in a very specific manner in order to denigrate his political opposition. You can retroactively and prospectively apply this formula. He will always follow it, guaranteed. There are 5 main points. Never, ever watch a reasonable amount of content from the person criticizing you. Misrepresent the opposing views. Attack the strawman version of the opposition's argument. If you do debate anyone about the position, it is never, ever the original person holding the position, shocker, and when the opposition becomes increasingly frustrated with your poor articulation, plus your takedowns, call them crazy, obsessed, unhinged, racist, and pretend you don't even really care about the topic, because you're a fucking hipster. Nick Diorio, every single person who's ever had drama with Hasan has gotten the "isn't this the guy that" introduction, later retweeting it with "no way, here's the clip of it."
Yeah, I like that we're getting our notes from this guy, by the way, in terms of who we need to ban. Like, that's what I mean. It's like it's so obvious. It's so obvious, dude. It's so obvious how motivated this is. Like, it is not, these are not people who give a fuck about Angie content. Like, didn't this guy literally used to have like a straight up Nazi program?
Some people just set themselves up and prove every point right every time. I stand by anyone can support anyone they like, but you must be able to accept that they are not some vaunted, unassailable, untouchable creature. On that note of touching, bit ironic, let's talk about Mia Khalifa, who has decided to emulate Frogan. For this, we're going to go back slightly to June of this year, where Mia Khalifa had tweeted, "Stop thanking people for their military service and start asking how many civilians they unalived instead." First reply, "How many civilians have you swallowed?" And at the bottom there you might notice, "How many civilians did you unalive with your stomach acid?" Oh my god, you can't escape this. This tweet is relevant for today. Just thought I'd bring it back up. Feared Buck. Mia Khalifa goes off on the US military service members and veterans, wishing they suffer from PTSD. So yes, we're gonna play that. It's Frogan 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Good morning to everybody who is not in the US military. Good morning to everybody who is sitting at home and not on soil that doesn't belong to them, fighting a war for a country that doesn't care about them. I hope you go over there and get your little brain all scrambled up with PTSD and then come back here and see how much the United States cares about you, Pookie.
All the optics on this aren't good, are they, Mia? Now, you posted this to Instagram, mostly positive comments, but you have a bigger audience on Instagram than you do TikTok, 20 plus million in fact. On TikTok, mostly negative comments asking you, what do you do for a living again? Now, I'm not going to compare what she does for a living to those who serve in the military. We're not doing that. I'd rather focus on the substance of what she said, wishing ill upon others because of what they are doing, i.e. following orders. It is not their job to question the orders come from those higher up, and it stops at the commander-in-chief. If you have an issue with it, it is not the soldier's fault for doing their job. It is the fault of the person the buck stops at. If you can't handle that, you should vote them out of office. You should not be wishing others to suffer, because compassion starts at the base. You don't just cut it off and say, or skip this one because you don't deserve it. I have arbitrarily made that decision for you. I understand people are very passionate about what is going on in the Middle East at the moment. I truly do understand that. But if you want to claim, like many do, that you are compassionate in a instance, but not in another, you do not support things like life mattering. You very much are no lives matter, because it's only those that matter to me that count.
See how much they care about you when you come back with, "Oh, I'm so sad. I piss my pants every time I see a falafel stand in Manhattan." Let's see how much the VA cares about you. Let's see what they tell you to do with your little broken brain from going over to fight a war that's not yours. They're going to tell you to try breathing exercises because the US government does not give a fuck about you once you cannot die for them. Once you're done, once you're a shell, they don't care about you.
So there are within this two separate issues. The first is concerning the soldiers being in the land they are not or should not be treading on. The issue with that is the US is the world's police. I quoted Josiah Bartlett at some point earlier this week, either on Omegon 2 or on this channel, when concerning Frogan. It still applies here. It will always apply. The US will always be the world's police for as long as democracy in that country persists, and for as long as many relationships can continue to prosper together. The second issue becomes a highly charged one during election season, that is the care for veterans. Donald Trump has claimed that he will do more to help veterans and that he has done more to help veterans. I believe a bill from John McCain was used during his time in office. I don't know what Joe Biden has done to help veterans during his time. And that's not because I don't care, it's because I haven't seen any. The most talked about points during Biden's term in office concerned his Build Back Better plan. Well, what was reported in the United Kingdom anyway, and that failed. So I don't know what he's done to help veterans in the slightest. And there should be help. Again, he, the president, is where the buck stops during all of this. But I don't see anyone criticizing him for this. I see people, commentators, on many different platforms using their rather large platforms to crap on the soldier instead for needing help, for following the orders they were issued by their commanders, who got it from their commanders and their commanders and then the commander-in-chief, who will have had to have approved it in some manner. Mia Khalifa putting this video out is bad. It is bad because you wish harm on others. That's not to say what you've said is wrong when it comes to governmental failing of veteran treatment. No, because you're right about that. But you have to see through the fact you're actually wishing harm on them in the first place to get to that point. The part about not helping others is somewhat ironic, considering you sit in America and you champion raising money for other countries. I say ironic because you're approaching things in a globalist attitude, yet when it comes to actually helping in other countries, you say no, because military intervention is not required. Complete lack of understanding here culturally, because you know, everyone knows, not everything can be resolved with words. I don't agree with that. I don't wish violence on anyone, but I'm not stupid enough to think that you can always just resolve it with words. And also, the ties of Israel to US government, my government, means that we are bound to them. We can still hold them accountable, it's just a little bit more complicated because of loaded words that poison the well, and have done so quite well over the past 15 years against all groups that cannot be criticised. I wonder how many dislikes that'll earn me this time. The Asmon Gold one went down so well.